With the world in its current state, everyone needs a decent board.
So I went down to the drop and picked something up. Behold, the Drop Alt High Profile keyboard in black. You're probably more familiar with its low profile sibling, and since I don't see too many of the high profile versions on YouTube, I'm putting this one up. That said, beside the board, you also get a USB-A to USB-C cable, a rinky-dinky key switch puller because the board is hot swappable. You get a nice keycap puller that also doubles as a screwdriver, and of course you get a manual. The board is made of two solid pieces of machined aluminum that sandwich a piece of plastic in the middle that provides a beautiful ring lighting around the entire keyboard. Unfortunately, the LEDs are a little too far out, so you are going to see each individual LED, or at least where it comes from, so you don't get a beautiful flush flow of colors. On the bright side, we don't get just one, but we also get a second USB-C port for inputs. When plugged into either port, the other port can be used as a hub. Unfortunately, the hub will only transfer data and charge devices at the speed of a USB 2.0 port. The backlighting also gets a little dimmer when you plug a second device in. As for the bottom of the board, you'll have the screws holding it together, some nice rubber feet, as well as a hole that hides the reset button that you access with a pin, which you'll need to do when reprogramming the board. As with many RGB boards, you are able to use the function commands to change all the colors and whatnot on the keyboard. And you are going to have only a limited amount of options you can choose from, but you can use their configuration software to customize it. You can find it on the Drop website, and just like with many other things, it will take a little practice to kind of get to know how to program your keyboard. You can also program it the old-fashioned QMK way, but honestly, most people who will buy this keyboard aren't going to need to program it at all, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. Back on hardware, the keycaps are made of PPT plastic, and when you purchase the board, you get a variety of choices for the switches. I chose Kale Speed Silvers because I was kind of curious about them, and if you didn't like the switch like I did, you can just use their key switch remover, which actually kind of sucks, so I used my nicer Rama Works key switch puller, which I suggest getting if you're into customizing keyboards. Anyhow, the PCB on this board utilizes Kale hot swap sockets. Note that there's only 3 holes because this board uses plate mount switches rather than PCB mount switches. Plate mount switches having only 3 prongs, while PCB mount switches have 5 prongs for extra stabilization on PCBs. You can still use PCB mount switches on the board, but you are going to have to clip off the extra stems. I'd wear eye protection while doing this because the little pieces fly off like bullets when you clip them off. Once that's done, all you gotta do is take the switch and stick it back into the board, making sure not to bend any of the little contact pins on the switch, and everything should be in working order. I don't see enough teardowns of this keyboard, so let's do that right now. Just gotta take off the screws, letting us take off the bottom plate, which is actually a nice solid piece of aluminum. Meanwhile, on the other half, you'll find a white PCB as well as that plastic LED diffuser. And here we can see that the LEDs are kind of far on the edges of the PCB, causing that dotted LED line look. Before we continue, we gotta remove these switches. The PCB isn't held in with screws, but rather the switches themselves, as well as the plastic diffuser, which we can remove with a guitar pick. Be careful during removal so you don't break the thin plastic. But once it's off, the PCB slips right out quite easily. And something you'll find out about the board is that it uses an integrated top plate, which isn't preferable to some because changing the top plate can affect the feel of the board. This plate's feeling stiffer than most, but some might actually like that. The stabilizers are plate mounted, which isn't preferred because they tend to be more rattly than PCB mount stabs.
Now this keyboard's gonna run you $230 plus shipping, handling, and taxes, which actually isn't that much in the mechanical keyboard community. For what you get at this price, it's just about right. You get a solid aluminum keyboard with a plastic metal bit that diffuses light all around it for aesthetics. You get 2 USB ports, which is pretty rare on mechanical keyboards. The keycaps are nice PBT plastic rather than ABS, and you get a hot swap PCB to make your life a little easier. Now I have seen some complaints that at this price, the stabilizer should already be lubed, but just like any other mechanical keyboard, you're going to have to do that yourself. You could be paying more than $300 for your keyboard and you'd still have to lube your own stabs. That's just kind of how it goes. And honestly, stock keyboards typically don't come with lube stabs, and when they do come with lube stabs, the lube job isn't as great as it could be. That said, with this being a custom mechanical keyboard, let's make it better.
The easiest and best mod you can do in any mechanical keyboard is to lube the stab. This will take out that rattle and make the stabilized keys sound way more crisp. For the band-aid mod, instead of band-aids, I used some adhesive rubber pads that I had lying around. These will act as shock absorbers for the stabilizers when you press down on the stabilized keys. To prevent sound reverberations inside my keyboard, I got some shelving foam from Target. This one in particular is grid cut, so you can just tear out the little squares to make room for little buttons and the screw holes for your keyboard. For this mod, you kind of have to be careful not to accidentally cover the LEDs if there's bottom glow LEDs. To further blow a hole in my bank, I got some Xylent V2 switches by Zeal PC. These are tactile silent switches, so I get some physical feedback with less noise. I did have to lube all the springs in my switches because mine were kind of pinging.
The pinging I'm referring to is known as spring ping, when you press down on your keys, the little spring on the inside of the switch causes a pinging sound. To remedy this, I had to open each and every single switch to lube each and every single spring, which took a lot of time. I'm not really gonna get into how to do that because there's already like other channels out there to show you how to do it probably way better. Someone I'd always recommend on how to do that is like Teha Types. He's like the guy to go to for that kind of stuff nowadays. Now, before I do the sound test, I'm gonna have to let you guys know that I actually don't have any clips of how the keyboard sounded before I lubed the stabs, because when I got the keyboard and I heard the stabs, I lubed them instantly. That said, here it goes. And so that's the drop keyboard and how it sounds. I don't have too much else to say about it because basically told you everything you needed to hear. But you know, what with the world in its weird, freaky state now, I guess I got a lot of time to make some videos. And you guys have been keeping around, which is kind of weird to me because I don't think my videos are like good by any means. And the support I get in the comments sometimes is kind of nice to help me keep moving forward with this kind of stuff. Like, we're almost about to hit like 1,000 now, which is a shocker to me, and I get a good feeling because I can't say I'm doing that well in life right now. But yeah, guys, thanks for sticking around and supporting me through all this kind of stuff in this weird time. You guys are awesome. You guys are weird for liking this stuff. Anyway, I'll see you next time.